Welcome to the Midnight Files channel. Imagine a room where the walls themselves glow like honey in candlelight, a chamber so magnificent that visitors could hardly believe their eyes, a treasure so valuable that its worth today is estimated at over $500 million. This was the Amber Room, once called the eighth wonder of the world, and for over 80 years it has been lost to history. This is the story of the Amber Room, a masterpiece that took decades to create, survived for centuries, and vanished in the chaos of World War II. Our story begins in the year 1701 in Prussia, which is now part of modern Germany. King Frederick I wanted something spectacular, something that would demonstrate Prussian wealth and power to rival even the Palace of Versailles in France. His wife, Queen Sophie Charlotte, had a particular vision in mind. The Baltic region was famous for its amber, fossilized tree resin that had been treasured for centuries as the gold of the North. Amber had been used in jewelry and small decorative objects, but never on the scale Frederick and Sophie Charlotte imagined. They wanted an entire room paneled in amber. Frederick commissioned German Baroque sculptor Andreas Schröder to design the room and brought in Danish amber craftsman Gottfried Wolfram to construct it. The work was painstaking. Amber is a delicate material, sensitive to temperature and humidity. The craftsmen had to heat the fossilized resin, treat it with honey and linseed oil, carve it into intricate mosaics, and carefully mount it on panels backed with gold leaf. The room was originally intended for Charlottenburg Palace in Berlin, but was eventually installed at the Berlin City Palace. However, Queen Sophie Charlotte died in 1705, never seeing the completed room. Work continued for years under masters, Gottfried Thurau and Ernst Schacht from Danzig, but when Frederick I died in 1713, his son Frederick William I had little interest in his father's expensive artistic projects. The new king was much more focused on building a strong Prussian army than tinkering with amber panels. The unfinished Amber Room sat in storage until 1716, when it became a diplomatic gift that would change its fate forever. That year, Tsar Peter the Great of Russia visited the Prussian court. Peter had always admired amber, and when he saw the panels, he was captivated. Frederick William I, who had no personal attachment to the room, saw an opportunity. He presented the entire Amber Room to Peter as a gift, cementing a Russo-Prussian alliance against Sweden. The amber panels were carefully dismantled, packed into 18 large crates, slowly transported by cart to Russia. It was one of the most generous diplomatic gifts in history. In return, Peter gave Frederick William 55 unusually tall Russian grenadier soldiers for the Prussian army. But once the Amber Room arrived in St. Petersburg, a problem immediately became apparent. The panels had been designed for specific rooms in German palaces. They didn't fit properly in any room in Peter's palace. Worse, some panels remained unfinished, and Russian craftsmen didn't have the specialized skills needed to work with amber on this scale. Peter the Great died in 1725, and for the next 13 years, the precious amber panels simply leaned against walls in the summer palace, waiting for someone to decide what to do with them. That someone was Peter's daughter, Empress Elizabeth. When she took the throne in 1743, one of her first acts was to order the amber panels moved to the much larger Winter Palace, where Italian craftsman Alexander Martelli attempted to assemble them. Finally, in 1755, Elizabeth decided the Amber Room should be installed at Catherine Palace in Tsarskoye Selo, the summer residence of the Russian imperial family, located in what is now Pushkin, near St. Petersburg. This is where the room would truly come to life. The Italian architect Francesco Bartolomeo Rastrelli was given the task of redesigning and expanding the room to fit its new, much larger space. Additional amber was shipped from Prussia. Russian and Italian craftsmen spent years adding more panels, carvings, and decorations. When the renovations were finally completed, around 1770, the Amber Room covered more than 55 square meters. It contained over 6 tons of amber, along with gold leaf, mirrors, gemstones including jade, jasper, and onyx, amber carvings of cherubs and angels, and intricate mosaics, created from over 100,000 pieces of hand-carved amber. By candlelight, the room created a kaleidoscope of warm colors ranging from pale yellow to deep orange to rich copper, all reflected and multiplied in the rooms. many mirrors. Different Russian rulers used it for different purposes. Empress Elizabeth used it as a private meditation chamber. Catherine the Great held gatherings there. Tsar Alexander II, an amber connoisseur, used it as a trophy room. The Amber Room survived the Russian Revolution of 1917. The new Soviet government recognized its historical and artistic value and preserved it carefully. For over 2 centuries, the room remained one of Russia's greatest treasures. Then came June 22, 1941. Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, sending 3 million German soldiers into the Soviet Union in the largest military invasion in history. The Nazis had a systematic plan for looting art and cultural treasures from occupied territories, and the Amber Room was high on their list. Hitler and his commanders viewed the Amber Room as German-made property that rightfully belonged to Germany. As German forces advanced toward Leningrad, which is what St. Petersburg was called during the Soviet era, officials at Catherine Palace faced a terrible dilemma. The head curator, Anatoly Kuchumov, tried to dismantle the room to evacuate it to safety, but he quickly discovered that after more than 200 years, the amber had become extremely brittle. Any attempt to remove the panels would cause them to crumble. Desperate, Kuchumov ordered workers to cover the amber walls with wallpaper, hoping to hide the room from the invading forces. It didn't work. In September 1941, when German troops occupied Catherine Palace, they knew exactly what they were looking for. Under the supervision of Nazi art experts, Ernst Otto Zusammenslaubach and Georg Poensgen, German soldiers accomplished what the Soviet curators could not. They carefully dismantled the entire amber room in just 36 hours, packed it into 27 crates, and shipped it by rail to Königsberg in East Prussia, which is now Kaliningrad, Russia. The room was reassembled in Königsberg Castle and put on public display. On November 13, 1941, the local newspaper ran the headline, "Amber Walls in the Palace," and the exhibition opened as a propaganda tool. If Germany could steal the Amber Room from under Soviet noses, the message went Soviet. Defeat was inevitable. The castle's director, Dr. Alfred Rode, was an amber expert who had actually written books on the subject. He studied the room's history and took meticulous notes while it was on display for the next 2 years. But by late 1943, the tide of war had turned. Soviet forces were advancing from the east. Allied bombers threatened German cities. In early 1944, Rode received orders to dismantle the Amber Room once again and crate it for evacuation to a safer location. This is where certainty ends and mystery begins. In August 1944, the Royal Air Force conducted devastating bombing raids on Königsberg. Much of the city was destroyed. Königsberg Castle was heavily damaged. In early 1945, as Soviet forces closed in, there was chaos. According to Rhodes' last known statement on January 12, 1945, the amber panels were being crated and he planned to evacuate them to Wechselberg in Saxony. But when Soviet troops captured Königsberg in April 1945, the Amber Room was nowhere to be found. Rode survived the siege and remained in Königsberg, but he never revealed what happened to the room. He died in December 1945, taking whatever he knew to his grave. Since then, the Amber Room has been the subject of one of history's greatest treasure hunts. Theories abound about what happened to it. The most widely accepted explanation among historians is that the room was destroyed during the Allied bombing of Königsberg in August 1944, or during the subsequent Soviet shelling when they captured the city in 1945. Soviet investigator Alexander Brusov reported finding 3 of the 4 original Florentine stone mosaics from the room, damaged and burnt in the castle's cellar. This suggests the room may have been caught in the fires that raged through the building. Some investigators believe Rode may have hidden the crated panels in the extensive tunnels and chambers beneath Königsberg Castle, hoping to protect them from bombs and retrieve them after the war. But if he did, he never told anyone where. Other theories are more exotic. Some claim the panels were loaded onto the German ship Wilhelm Gustloff, which was sunk by a Soviet submarine in January 1945. The wreck has been explored multiple times, with no trace of the Amber Room. In 2020, Polish divers found another ship, the SS Karlsruhe, which sank off Poland in 1945, carrying cargo from Königsberg, but the Crates contained only military equipment. There have been countless searches in salt mines, underground bunkers, Czech caves, and Lithuanian lagoons. All have come up empty. Only 2 pieces of the original amber room have ever been recovered. In 1997, German authorities discovered one of the original Florentine mosaics in the possession of a German soldier's son who claimed his father had stolen it during the room's removal, either in 1941 or 1945. The mosaic was formally returned to Russia in 2000. There is even talk of an amber room curse. Many people connected to the room have died under mysterious circumstances. Alfred Rode and his wife both died of typhus while being investigated by the KGB. Russian General Gusev died in a car crash after talking to journalists about the room. Former German soldier Georg Stein, who was hunting for the amber room, was murdered in a Bavarian forest in 1987. By the late 1970s, Soviet authorities accepted that the original room was likely lost forever. In 1979, they made a decision that would take a quarter century to complete. They would rebuild the amber room from scratch. This was an enormous undertaking. The reconstruction team had only black and white photographs and some architectural drawings to work from. Many of the specialized amber working techniques used by 18th century craftsmen had been lost. The recipes for adhesives and dyes were unknown. Modern craftsmen had to research, experiment, and essentially reinvent how to create something like the amber room. The project was led by master craftsman Alexander Krylov and involved over 40 Russian and German experts in amber craftsmanship. Work proceeded slowly through the 1980s. Then, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, funding dried up. The project nearly died. Salvation came from an unexpected source. The German company Ruhrgas, later E.ON, donated $3.5 million to complete the reconstruction. The irony was not lost on anyone. A German company was helping to replace what the German army had stolen. The craftsmen faced incredible challenges. They had to determine the exact 20 shades used to dye the original amber. They had to rediscover what type of beeswax worked best to hold the amber plates in place. They had to carve intricate designs onto tiny amber medallions with impossible precision. The chief restorer later remarked that they had to start from zero, reinventing techniques that had been lost for centuries. 24 years after the project began, on May 31, 2003, the reconstructed amber room was finally complete. The unveiling ceremony was held as part of St. Petersburg's 300th anniversary celebration. Russian President Vladimir Putin and German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder jointly dedicated the room in a ceremony attended by world leaders including George W. Bush, Tony Blair, Jacques Chirac, and Silvio Berlusconi. Putin called the reconstruction a symbol of the new relations in the united family of our greater Europe. The symbolism was powerful Russian and German craftsmen had worked together to recreate something that war had destroyed. The reconstruction cost approximately $12 million. It contains 450 kilograms of amber panels along with gold leaf, mirrors, and gemstones. Modern visitors to Catherine Palace can see it today glowing just as magnificently as it did centuries ago. During peak summer months, the room receives about 7,000 visitors per day. But the mystery of the original remains. Is it buried somewhere beneath Königsberg, now called Kaliningrad? Was it destroyed in the chaos of war? Is it hidden in some forgotten bunker, the amber slowly deteriorating in the damp darkness? In 2004, British journalists Catherine Scott Clark and Adrian Levy conducted an extensive investigation and concluded in their book The Amber Room that Brusov was likely correct. The original was destroyed at Königsberg, and subsequent Soviet searches were partly a cover-up to avoid admitting that Soviet forces might have accidentally destroyed their own treasure while liberating the city. Adding credence to this theory is a disturbing fact. In 1968, Soviet General Secretary Leonid Brezhnev ordered the complete destruction of what remained of Königsberg Castle, making any archaeological investigation of the Amber Room's last known location essentially impossible. Yet treasure hunters continue searching. The allure is too strong. Somewhere they believe crates filled with 6 tons of golden amber still wait to be discovered. What we know for certain is this: the Amber Room represents both the heights of human artistic achievement and the devastating cultural cost of war. It took craftsmen from multiple nations decades to create. Russian rulers treasured it for centuries. The Nazis stole it as a trophy, and war destroyed or hid it so completely that even 80 years of searching has failed to find it. The reconstructed room is magnificent, a testament to the dedication of modern craftsmen who spent 24 years bringing it back to life. But it's not the original. Those 6 tons of 18th century amber, those gold-backed panels created by masters, whose techniques are now lost. That room, which glowed in candlelight for over 200 years in the palaces of Russian emperors, remains one of the greatest lost treasures in history. The Amber Room reminds us that some things, once lost, can never truly be replaced. We can recreate them, honor them, remember them, but the original, with all its history and all the hands that shaped it, is gone, hidden somewhere in the shadows of the past, waiting to see if its secret will ever be revealed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.